How will Steve Rogers and his brand new team of invaders ever hope to retake Manhattan from AIM if they can't trust their own minds? Well, let's hop into the pages of Captain America Sentinel of Liberty issue number 10 and find out what happens next, shall we? So then, picking up directly from where the last issue left off, everyone, not the least of which our heroes, were horrified to discover that they had actually failed to retake the island of Manhattan not once, not twice, but multiple times, and after each failure, M.O.D.O.C, the mechanized organism designed only for control, completely wiped their minds, meaning that they've been doing the same dance over and over again for weeks and nothing actually seems to get any better. Now though, it would seem the game has changed as M.O.D.O.C decides to now torture the invaders by trapping them in mental projections of their absolute worst memories. For Cap, that memory is sadly pretty recent, with Bucky betraying him and hoping to go in undercover to expose the Sentry game and the Outer Circle on his own. Sharon's worst memory is pretty telling, and that is all the times under mental duress she would betray Captain America, or at least try to. I mean, hey, they'd always worked out in the end, right? Though I'm sure it must also be pretty embarrassing too to have to reminisce about. Now, Roger Aubrey the Destroyers is actually quite interesting, mainly because his memory starts off very nice, and that is the day in which he actually admitted to Brian Fallsworth, the love of his life, that he was absolutely crazy about him and that they should run off together. His love was returned, but unfortunately it was on that very same day the Nazis came and shot a bunch of people, so yeah, a really good memory is tinged with a lot of blood. Speaking of blood, Nick Fury Jr.'s memories are all about the people who he saw die on the battlefield, the people who were near and dear to him, and the people that he couldn't save because of top brass commanders getting in the way. Kind of an interesting read on Nick Fury Jr. as he would end up becoming a big top brass commander himself who would often lead people to their own deaths one way or another. Hell, even redacted Captain America's new robot buddy gets a flashback too, implying that he maybe wasn't always a robot, that he might be an android who was human once. Or maybe even something alien, as we see a quick glimpse of a brood alien in this flashback too. Clearly there's a lot about redacted we just do not know yet. Now what about Peggy Carter the Dryad? What is her worst memory? Well, we don't actually see it because get this, M.O.D.O.C takes a weird sort of pity on her because Dryad is also a Starpoint. They might not always be on the same side as Starpoints, but they do ultimately serve the same masters, and the Outer Circle wouldn't want M.O.D.O.C breaking their toys. Especially considering that Redacted left the Outer Circle behind and Bucky actually got promoted to player in the Sentry game. They're probably down more Starpoints than ever before. Weirdly, Peggy is not frightened at all. She says that this M.O.D.O.C business will be dealt with soon enough, and that is because, get this, Roger Aubrey the Destroyer has one of the strongest minds that she's ever known. M.O.D.O.C laughs at this assertion because, I mean, really, the oldest member of your team, this senior citizen, he's the guy with the amazing sharp brain who's gonna save you all? How? But despite his early mocking, it's true, Roger Aubrey is actually able to see through the illusions before anyone else and regain a certain level of self. So much to the point he's able to strip away M.O.D.O.C's illusion and talk to him one-on-one, saying that he made this very personal right around the time he chose to steal the face of Brian, the man he loves. After that, Roger tells a story saying that his mind is beyond any and all tampering because he's been sharpening his mind like a blade against the hard stone of fascism his entire life. That as a boy, his father, a cruel British lord, would take him on his rounds to collect rent from the peasant folk, and that when they couldn't pay him, he would beat them, and if Roger ever dared to ask him why, he would get an even worse beating himself. This went on until Roger was about 13. One day, his father was about to beat the local candy maker for coming up short after a bad year's harvest. It was on that day that Roger dug deep into himself and ended up punching his father in the face. It was at that very moment he ended up shattering the illusions of fear and control that his cruel father had spent years cultivating. It was on that day that Roger truly did become the Destroyer for the first time. And today, right now with M.O.D.O.C is much like that day too. You don't fight mind control, you don't fight coercion by fighting fire with fire, you fight it by punching it in the goddamn face, and you know what? I can respect that school of thought. It's around here too we actually managed to catch a brief glimpse of what's going on in the real world. The power of the Outer Circle is starting to get wise that Bucky has secretly been helping Cap and his friends from afar. The power isn't mad at the revolution though, quite the opposite. He's happy that Bucky has finally learned to play the game. He's just a little perturbed that he's oh so bad for it and that all of his friends are going to die because of it. Thanks to Destroyer Sawyer's help, Cap and the other members of the Invaders actually manage to escape M.O.D.O.C's illusions. They press him for information about the Power's whereabouts, and it's here that the nasty villain actually pulls one hell of a gambit. If new M.O.D.O.C can't control the situation the way that it's required, then quite simply they're just gonna flip the switch and have old M.O.D.O.C designed for killing come on in and do his thing. Which is exactly what they do, and as the comic comes to a close, poor Roger Aubrey ends up taking the brunt of M.O.D.O.C's attack. And so that was Captain America Sentinel of Liberty issue number 10, everybody, and I gotta say, I really enjoy what's going on here. Lanzig and Kelly actually do a good job sharing the narrative load between all the different members of Cap's team. Steve might be the main character, but that doesn't mean that every story always has to be about him, and I must say, giving the spotlight to Roger Aubrey actually does great things with him. I wasn't too familiar with the character when I started, but now I kinda love the guy. Which naturally makes it all the more sad that they might very well have killed him off in this issue too, just to really twist the knife in a little deeper. It's also really fun to see them play up the split personality aspect of the two M.O.D.O.Cs. You have to wonder if they have the technology to do that to him. Who else could they very well be doing that to? Overall, I feel comfortable giving this one another 8 out of 10. Captain America Sentinel of Liberty continues to be one of the most thoroughly and consistently enjoyable superhero books I've read in a long time, and maybe one of the best ongoing Cap stories in years.
Hey there everyone, Kate Joel again, and I just want to thank you so much for watching to the end of the video. It means a lot to me. And hey, if you enjoyed the book I covered in this issue and want some comics of your own, might I recommend Book Depository? It's my #1 place for shopping for comic book trades. You get a great price, and if you use my link down in the description, you'll actually be helping me out at the same time. You get something, I get something, everybody wins, right? So until next time everyone, I've been Joel, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.